Thank you, Sandra. Breaking today, thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of pro-regime supporters are flooding the streets of Tehran. They are chanting "Death to America," a familiar refrain. They're also calling now for the assassination of President Trump. This during funeral services for slain Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. In just a few hours from now, President Trump departs for a key NATO summit in Turkey with all the allies. Iran is expected to really top the agenda there. Take a listen.
I went in for one reason, very strongly, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I'm not looking for regime change, although this is regime change. The first regime is gone. The second regime is gone. And I think the third regime is more reasonable, but we'll find out.
Let's bring in Dan Hoffman, former CIA station chief, also a Fox News contributor. Dan, that is a familiar refrain from the president, right? The part about maybe the folks in power now in Iran will prove to be more moderate than the predecessors. Do you see any evidence of that right now?
I don't see any evidence of that right now, and it appears that Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has been elevated over the clerics and the technocrats. And so whether we're looking at a hardline regime that became an even harder line regime or not, I think that's a question the president will be asking Director Ratcliffe at CIA during this pause. There's obviously nothing's going to happen until the funeral for Ayatollah Khamenei is over on 9 July. But the question is whether Iran might be interested in receiving those economic incentives, receiving frozen funds and lifting sanctions and continuing to be able to export oil at market prices, and then in return enter into negotiations in good faith on their nuclear program. President Trump and the administration will be held accountable to deliver something better than the JCPOA, which had sunset clauses on Iran's nuclear program and never dealt with their ballistic missile program or support to proxy terrorists. So there's a lot at stake, but during this pause, I think the president will be able to use this opportunity to gather with his advisors and again, as you pointed out during the NATO meetings, huddle with our closest allies on the steps that we might take in the coming days and weeks.
What do you think President Trump headed to this NATO meeting, right? He's going to have an audience of all the allies there in Ankara. What do you think the primary thing is for him? What is his top agenda item here when it comes to these European allies? What does he want them to do next?
Well, I think when it comes to Iran, they're probably asking President Trump what his plans are. We've received a lot of assistance from Europe, and there's a lot of military support that they gave us during the military strikes that we took on Iran. And I think what the president might want is to have that in his back pocket so that we're not only offering Iran economic incentives, but that we are telling Iran that if they don't go along with this opportunity that they have to negotiate in good faith, then they will be facing additional kinetic strikes. And if we make that point clear and Europe backs us up, our NATO partners back us up and say that, yes, we will continue to provide the support that the United States needs to conduct these strikes, well, I think that would be helpful.
What about this, Dan? Washington Post headline, this in addition to all the video footage we have been showing our viewers this afternoon. They read a crowd chants "Death to America" as Khamenei's casket winds through Tehran over and over and over again. Tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of people there. It's, I mean, aside from being sickening, it is, it's also sort of undermines this idea that there's this entire population yearning to be free of this theocratic regime.
Well, I think this Iranian regime is using the Ayatollah's funeral as a public relations stunt designed to try to show that the country is unified behind the leadership, the current leadership, against the United States and against Israel and against the Gulf states. They want to project strength and unity. Whether, in fact, that's true or not is another matter. Dictatorships like Iran are inherently brittle, and what's happening behind the scenes oftentimes is entirely different from what we're seeing publicly.
Perhaps a lot of those people feel threatened to be out there, feel that it's a requirement, feel they'll be punished or sought out if they are not by the regime, which is notoriously barbaric. Dan, we got to leave it there. Thank you for taking time with us this afternoon. Good to talk to you as always.
All right, thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.